Tom Jobim, Brasil não é para principiantes. So I was, and I think I still am, a principiante here in Brazil, and it's definitely it's not so easy. It's a really big country. It's very diverse. There's a lot going on all the time, and it's a bit tough to come here as a beginner. Here's some first impressions. So the language. So I arrived in Brazil at the end of January, and I soon learned that the language is tough, and the regional differences, the different sotaques, make it even more difficult. So when I finally thought that I had gotten a grasp of Portuguese, I was finally starting to understand people and be able to communicate. I heard the accent from Salvador, and I was just completely lost again. I spoke Spanish before coming here, which has helped me a lot, and also I think hurt me a lot. Oftentimes I will let a Spanish word slip in conversation, and either the person I'm speaking with, especially down here in Rio Grande do Sul, they understand it, or so I don't, and I'm not corrected. So I just go on thinking that this word exists, and when it's not a word in Portuguese at all. And then I just recognized right away that Portuguese is a stunning language. It's so beautiful. And like all the untranslatable words, it's beautiful. It's a really pretty language. Timing, it's much more relaxed on scheduling than the United States, and I adapted very quickly. So, if someone invited me to a party or to a dinner at 10 p.m., I couldn't even, now I know, don't even think about showing up before 11:30, The bureaucracy, and I thought that the United States had a big problem with bureaucracy, but here I've been very. It was shocking as a foreigner to register with the federal police here, and I was registering in Rio, so it was even crazier there. But so many visits to different places just to get a little stamp here, and oh no, this isn't the right size, and oh no, you photocopied the wrong thing, and oh no, please come back and wait 2 hours in this line for us to tell you we're not going to do anything for you. There's lots of paperwork, but on the plus side, it forced me to be much more organized and detail-oriented, and to not throw out anything. Honesty in conversation, so you guys are much more honest and direct. There's 2 examples. When I was on the plane coming to Brazil for the first time, I was chatting with the woman sitting next to me, a carioca, and I was just talking to her. I said I want to cut my hair because it's going to be so hot in Brazil, and she just said, no, you can't do that. No one will like you if you have short hair. And another, I was speaking with the empregada of my apartment here in Bagé, and I was saying, she was asking me about my vacation. I said, foi bem, mas acho que eu engordei muito. E ela falando, sim, eu percebi so it's sort of like an awakening, but in a good way. And then the last thing is PDA, which is kind of a Judia, stands for Public Display of Affection. So I think here it's much more prevalent, and I think in the US we're much more reserved. And I came here during the time of Carnival, so that was also surprising, like people kissing everywhere in the streets, doing much more than kissing in the clubs, you know. So that was a bit shocking for me. So all of this helped with my cultural immersion and helped me assimilate and understand some of the cultural norms here. How is my speed? Is it okay? Okay. So in the very beginning of March, so I met Sofia, and we came down here to the Gaucho culture. So I'm going to talk about my favorite aspects of the Gaucho culture. And that's a picture of the very first chimarrão that I made by myself. It was a very proud moment. So, the strong sense of pride in the Gaucho culture, I feel like it's just very nice to see that they're so proud of the background. Then family values. Family is very important here, and I think that this is also across Brazil, but here especially. Notice that family is very important. People are spending time with their families. People often ask me here in Baje, after, como você está, they'll ask, como está sua família, como está sua mãe, seu pai. So I think that's really nice. Maintaining the tradition, so I was so impressed when I went to my first CTG. I thought it was really cool, and that you still see everywhere people in traditional Gaucho clothing and it's like just the pomp in general, and people still working on the farms and with the horses in the town. It's very quaint. And then just the culture. This is also applicable to all of Brazil. That it's a sharing culture. So here, from like the chimarrão to even the way that churrascos are held, like just like passing around everything. In the U.S., it's not like that at all. If you order food or just have food with a bunch of Americans, they're not going to offer you. You're not going to share. So I like that. The three biggest differences between the U.S. and Brazil. So the first is a hands-off or hands-on culture, I think. In the U.S., we're very hands-off. We're very conscious of a personal bubble, and both in a physical sense, and don't get too close to someone, and also just in a sense the directness in conversation. You guys there's much more flexibility here in Brazil. I'm glad that the sun came out today, because I think if it was raining, half of you guys would not be here. But we would understand. And in the U.S., we're less forgiving, I guess, with this kind of thing. So, I think people here are more understanding and more flexible in general. And lastly, a destination versus the journey. In the U.S., we are obsessed, I think, with the idea of a destination, and that we're so obsessed with this oftentimes superficial, again, nature of a job title, for example, or how much money you make. And we don't so much care about the experiences you've had or how it is that you have gotten to where you are. And here, for example, in the US, I have never in my life met someone who has done 2 formaturas, who has gone to undergraduate twice. Unheard of. And here, I think it's much more common. And I think that's great. In the US, once we decide what we want to study at 17, 18 years old, we have to stick with that. Because of pressure from many different sides, from societal pressure from society, monetary pressure. It's extremely expensive to go to college in the US. And I think it's really great here that if your passions change, if you're studying one thing and you change your mind, I think that should be valued, and I think that's great that you guys do have the chance to really study, find your passions, and it's not frowned upon. I took this off of Humans of New York. Do people know this site? Humans of New York? It's a really cool Instagram page. They have one, Humans of Baget, and they have something like that. Huh? What is it? Social Baget. It's basically the same thing. But this, so he asks him, what do you miss most about Brazil? He says, I'm not sure how to say in English. Can I email you? The reporter says, just try. The Brazilian answers, in Brazil, my people, money or no money, still happy. So I don't know if all of you agree with this, but I think it sort of sums up the journey versus the destination. All right, here are the 2 things I will miss most about Brazil. Well, and the tiny little third thing. But mostly, besides açaí and pão de queijo, I have made relationships with friends here that I will treasure for the rest of my life. And I will miss the everyday cultural exchange and learning opportunities. I feel so fortunate to have been able to come here and really every day, this sounds so cliche, but to learn something new every day, to have conversations with friends here and share parts of both American culture, learn about Brazilian culture. I've been very spoiled to have this opportunity. And then my last takeaway is another quote. And it says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So this is just to sort of remind you and myself that you have the best experiences when you step out of your comfort zone, when you do things that you never thought you would do. Sofia and I had kind of a similar reaction when we were told last November, was it? Must have been last November, that we were placed in Baget, that we would be moving to Baget in 3 months. And I almost didn't come here because I had lived in cities my whole life. I didn't want to waste 10 months of my life living in a tiny little town. What was I going to learn? What was I going to be able to contribute? And I'm so glad that I came here. And I have, it's been a great experience living here, meeting everyone here. I've had an amazing experience that I would not trade for anything. So I think it would have been much easier for me. I don't even know how far out of my comfort zone it would have been if I was placed in a big city, like Sao Paulo, for example. But coming here, leaving my comfort zone, has been one of the best experiences in my life, and I highly encourage all of you to do the same. And that's all. If you have any questions, maybe we can wait. Maybe you can hold on to them, and we can take them at the end of the presentation. I'm going to pass the mic now.
Hi everyone, my name is Sofia, and I'm going to start my presentation from Gringas and Fronteiras. Alright. Okay, just a little bit background information about myself. I went to Towson University in near Baltimore, Maryland. Sasha and I actually went to universities about 20 minutes from each other, but we did not meet each other until we came here to Brazil. I studied international relations with a minor in Latin American studies, and I also got certified to teach English as a second language in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Okay, and what we're doing here, Katja presented us, but just to give you a little bit more background information, we are English teaching assistants. We help teachers teach English, and we also lead our own conversation clubs on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays I teach the class, and Thursdays Sasha leads the class. And we also go to classrooms, we help teachers, we do give presentations. I lead a dance club, and Sasha also leads a movie club. And these are all taught in English. Okay. Okay, so having studied international relations, I have traveled a lot. I studied abroad in Argentina for 1 year. Last year I lived in Colombia, and when I was studying abroad in Argentina, I visited Peru, Bolivia, Chile, Uruguay. So I've had a lot of experience living in South America. However, with Brazil, I didn't know what to expect, because in Brazil we speak Portuguese, and I thought I was entering a whole different country. I thought I was going to go to Narnia or something, because Brazil in my mind was a different world. And I had studied about Brazilian culture, about Portuguese culture, but I've never really experienced it. However, shortly after arriving, I realized it was going to be an easier experience for me personally because of my background. My mom is from Venezuela. I come from an Italian, Portuguese background. So my experience, I think, has been a little bit easier than that of maybe an American who has never traveled abroad outside of the United States, or, for example, a Brazilian who has gone to the United States or to an English-speaking country, which is not as similar to their own. So I had no idea what was going to happen, right? However, my experience, having lived in Brazil, related to this, cultural assimilation. So this is the process by which a person or a group's language and or culture come to resemble those of another group. So as I explained, I have studied abroad, I have lived abroad, I've worked abroad, so I understand a little bit more of the society, the culture, the language. So my experience wasn't as difficult, as I said, as maybe an American who hasn't traveled or studied abroad. Okay. So Sasha discussed more about this, the differences between the United States and Brazil, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the similarities, how we are similar more in terms of culture. Okay? And through my studies and through my research, I have come to the realization that we are fundamentally all the same. Okay? As a culture, yes, we have our differences, but we are all united in terms of knowledge, society, customs, and beliefs. We all have a belief system. We all have a society. And these are fundamental traits of all countries. So the United States and Brazil may be a lot more similar than you may think. So you always think of the differences. The United States is bigger, has more people who work harder, not necessarily harder, work all the time, can't take a break, whereas here in Brazil you have that break. At least here in Budget, you close down, for 2 hours to have lunch. In the United States, when I worked at the law firm, I had half an hour and I ate by myself and cried in the kitchen. Okay. But within the two countries, we have a sense of national belonging and we have a pride and a loyalty to our country. And when we go abroad, I feel that we bring that with us. We have another ETA in Pelotas, and she brought her American flag to Pelotas, and it's hanging in her room. And I'm sure if you studied abroad in the United States, you would bring your Brazilian flag, and you would bring your Inter shirt, and, show that because you have such a sense of pride to your country. Okay. Along with that, we also are similar in terms of cultural identity. Okay? So I'm not going to read all of these for you, but I am going to point out some. So in terms of location, for example, Brazil and the United States both have developed their country more on the coastline. Okay? We have the biggest cities around the coast, and New York City and Sao Paulo are similar in terms that they're really big, they're financial centers, and they're sort of the capitals of the country without it being the capital. Okay? It has a real big sense of prestige in the cities. Another example is race and ethnicity. Both of our countries are thought of as melting pots. Maybe not so much here. We learned about this term the other day in a conversation club, melting pot, which is a assimilation of different cultures in one country. So for example, we both have a large influx of immigrants from Italy, from Spain, from Germany. We have the largest Asian population outside of Asia. You have the largest Japanese population in Sao Paulo, and we have the largest Chinese population in the United States. I have one more example. No, that's it. And I think for me, the biggest similarity is that we all have language. Without language, we wouldn't have culture, we wouldn't have anything. Language has developed over thousands of years into what it is today. And personally, I love language. I love learning language. I know 2.5 languages, Portuguese, the half, still going there. But without the Portuguese language, I wouldn't be as connected to Brazilian culture as I am today. Okay, if I didn't know what feijoada was, what mate, chimarrão, churrasco, I wouldn't have that appreciation of the food. Okay, same in terms of music. If I didn't go to Reina and Cabana and listen to pagode, sertanejo, funky, which I learned the very first night, the music, not the dance, I wouldn't be as connected to I am to Brazilian culture. And other topics that I can discuss in the questions. If I hadn't learned Portuguese, if I hadn't learned Spanish, I don't think I would be the person I am today. And that's why I implore you to study abroad, to work abroad, to live abroad, because it opens your eyes to so much more that is out there. Even just traveling within Brazil. You know, I traveled to the Northeast, I traveled to Livramento, I traveled to Florianopolis, I've traveled everywhere, and it has given me a much bigger understanding of the whole culture of Brazil. Brazil is not just Gaúcho, it is so much more than that, and that's what I've learned through this experience. Okay. So we come here to teach, but we learn so much more. These are just some pictures that I have included. I went to Alegrete once, and I learned how to drink chimarrão. That was one of my first experiences. And here in Rio Grande do Sul, well, this was in Caxias, you know, a friendly cow dog. She really thought she was a dog. And then, you know, you go to a city, you go to Sao Paulo, and you don't find that. So in terms of maybe like soccer, food, music, we aren't as similar, but we are similar in other ways. I'm just confused. Okay. So that's me a little bit gordinha. And the first time I was trying açaí in Moqueca in the Northeast. Another thing that I've learned is Brazil is diverse, like I said before, and that also soccer is religion. I also learned some songs, but I won't sing them today, maybe during the question and comments, but I have a nice song for Grêmio. Alright. So what I have learned in the 9 months here are lots of things, and Sasha has spoken so much about how Brazil is amazing, and I completely agree with her. So it has an amazing culture, and it has a Dionysian spirit, which means that you are more spontaneous, you're more emotional in a good way, and you love to live life in the moment. Okay, that is what I have learned, and I continue to take that in my day-to-day life. And you have a happy sense that conflict will end. You know, I think, in general terms, many Brazilians have a negative view of their own country, that you say, oh, Brazil has so many problems, they have potholes everywhere, the government doesn't work well. However, you strive so hard to make it a better place. And you guys are here, you know, studying for 4, 5, 6 years to become engineers, to become professors, to become teachers, to do all that you can to help your country. Okay? And I think that is amazing. And maybe we can fight through all the problems with a little bit of samba. And we'll open up for questions and comments.
Okay, questions? Anyone? You can ask questions in Portuguese, okay? Eu vou fazer a primeira, então, depois você se anima. Sasha, Sofia, if you could give us a piece of advice for when you go to the United States, what would you tell these guys if they would become an exchange student like you, but there in the United States?
Very have made many, many mistakes, but without those, we wouldn't have learned. And as I said before, if you don't learn the language, I don't think you learn as much about the culture. So, and it is a process, it's going to be difficult, but it is such an amazing and rewarding experience to do so. ¿Otras preguntas?
In Livramento, they asked us quite a few questions. So I don't know if there's a competition between the campuses, but just saying.
It doesn't have to be a formal question. You can ask some personal, informal questions. Anything you are curious about? Can you tell us about a funny situation that you passed?
I really hate ordering bread here because I'm terrified of making that mistake. So I'm very, very conscientious when I'm at padaria.
Quiet.
So many things. We'll come back to that. We'll come back. There's too many.
Oh, another this thing on the nasal sound, that A with the squiggly. That sound is so hard. And another thing in the padaria, I've gone back and forth trying to just find the drink with cachaça and wine that you guys drink when it's cold. What is it? What? Yes. Trying to find that in the supermarket where I knew they had it was so difficult too. Going back and forth with the guy, and he did not understand. I was saying quentão. He's like, what is that? No. Oh, quentão. Why didn't you say that to begin with? It's a struggle.
Vocês perceberam uma similaridade com relação à mentalidade das grandes cidades aqui no Brasil com a mentalidade americana?
So the similarities between the cities?
The big cities, yeah,
Mhm.
all over Europe.
Yeah. So the big cities here, like Rio, São Paulo, I was really surprised when I got to Rio, and a really big city, lots and lots of people, and just everyone walking around without a shirt on. I was and that's part, and then compared to Sao Paulo, it's totally different, right? But still, for me, in a big city, even Los Angeles, which is a beach town, it's not like that. But similarities, I absolutely loved visiting Sao Paulo after 5 or 6 months here, because any kind of food that I wanted to eat, any ethnic food from pretty much any country, I can find there. And same in New York City or most big cities in the U.S. I think that I have not gone to Curitiba, but the public transportation, I think the metro in Rio and Sao Paulo, I was very impressed. And I think it's better than the metro system in some cities in the U.S., San Francisco for one.
O que vocês, quando chegarem lá na casa de vocês, qual é a ideia negativa que vocês vão falar para alguém que quer vir depois para o Brasil? Não façam isso, ou não digam isso, ou cuidado com algo aqui no Brasil.
Aqui no Brasil ou tudo Brasil?
Todo o Brasil.
Eu vou falar sobre coisas que... I'm going to talk about things that are more general that I think that one would do in any country. Just being careful with their personal belongings. Like, not here, but I got my cell phone stolen in a different country, so I'm a lot more careful about my personal belongings.
I think here, like, to just like more assimilate, like, acho que algumas pessoas me acharam fria porque eu não deixei elas quando les vi, entendeu? Because it doesn't even occur to me sometimes that if I pass you no corredor, you know, like, sometimes I forget, and I think that it's on you guys too to understand, because someone later told me, like, why haven't you said hi to me, like, you know, and me cumprimentar, and I was like, I didn't even realize. So just like being aware that, like, just if you're gonna assimilate, like, just do it. So sort of trying not to forget, like, the little things and how they can be perceived without you even noticing.
I think more things like instead of not to do, like, you have to be a lot more patient, waiting in lines to pay your phone bill, or going to the supermarket and waiting in lines. Having people approach you, having the workers who work at the stores approach you and just stay by you while you buy your clothes. Understanding that here things cost more in terms of clothing and accessories. So, but also the benefits, like, things are like cheaper. Like here, I get my nails done every 2 weeks. A senhora que faz minhas unhas sabe tudo de minha vida. Like, as conexões que você faz com a gente são melhores, eu acho. E ter um mente aberto, porque as pessoas são muito legais e querem saber tudo de você.
Como está quase na hora da janta, comida favorita que comeram aqui no Brasil? Qual comida vocês mais gostaram de comer aqui no Brasil?
Buffet livre e sobremesa. Buffet livre não é tão ruim e não é tão bom. Os buffets que você vai ver lá são mais sushi, ou coisa assim. Pudim, brigadeiro. Eu sou muito gorda, na verdade. Capelinhas. Mas não pra gente.
Do que vocês vão mais sentir falta quando chegarem na casa de vocês? Por causa daqui?
What are you going to miss most about Brazil when you return to the States? The food, definitely. Your food is very delicious. The chocolates, the people. I really, really like that you guys are so open here because I'm Hispanic. And so I love like kissing and hugging and that, like, oh, come over to my house right now and drink chimahao and talk about everything. And I really, really like that, and I'm going to miss that a lot. Definitely. And I'm going to miss her.
I sort of like touched upon this my presentation, but yeah, definitely some of the attitudes here. I'm gonna miss like staying out till the sun comes up. I'm gonna miss you know, a lot of the connections I've made here, and parts of the culture, like Sofia said, just how, like even just the chimahao, like sitting down and talking to each other, or sitting outside and drinking cerveja bem gelada for hours. That's a beautiful thing, and you know, in the U.S. I feel like it's always so rush. So those parts of your guys' culture.
And one more thing to add on that, I'm also going to miss the friendships that I've made here. As I was saying before, you guys are very open and welcoming. On the very first weeks that I was here, I met a student, Fernanda. She's in the engineering section. And after we talked about like once or twice, she told me like, oh, I'm going to Caxias this weekend. And I was like, oh, I want to learn something about Caxias. And then the next day she was like, hey Sofia, do you want to come to Caxias with me? And she took me to Caxias, and I met her family, and they had dinner, and we went to Gramado, and they took me everywhere, and I had known her for 2 days. And that you wouldn't find in the United States. Or if you do, it's very rare. Also, a couple weeks ago, I went to Porto Alegre, and the family was so welcoming, and like every single time I saw them, I would kiss like the mom and the grandma, and every single time I left, I would kiss the mom and the grandma, and they'd be like, you're so nice, and I'm gonna miss you, and they were so nice, and they got me a bombilla and a cuy, and I met them for like 20 minutes. They're so nice, like I'm gonna miss that so much, definitely.
Eu queria saber quais foram os estereótipos que vocês escutaram no Brasil lá, que vocês vieram pra cá e perceberam que não é verdade, que não é todo mundo tipo, que faz.
Having studied international relations, I didn't have as much stereotypes because I studied Portuguese as well. But a lot of misconceptions of Brazil are that it is a very, very rural country, that you do not have a lot of development, which is untrue considering Sao Paulo and other big cities. Another misconception is that you speak Spanish and not Portuguese, and that you are predominantly don't go to school, which is also not true. And I think that's what comes off the top of my head.
I think that was true.
That you guys are crazy about soccer. That you love soccer.
Yeah, that the country is a beach. That's not true. Yeah, that doesn't get cold. It's always hot. Not true. I think that, yeah, I think my friends will be like shocked that I'm whiter than when I left for Brazil. But yeah, that everyone is like on the beach the whole time, dark skin. There's a lot more diversity here than we realize in the U.S.
Sasha?
Do you think here are more sexes and races, or there?
So, I think machismo is very, very prevalent here. I think it's stronger here than in the US. Racism, it's that's harder for me to say. I think the US has a huge many problems with racism across all infrastructure, government, and everywhere in the country. But so maybe I would give sexism to Brazil and racism to the US. But I think they're both countries in such a big, diverse places. I think both countries have a long ways to go on both of those subjects.
And in terms of machismo in South America, what I have seen in Brazil in comparison to the other countries that I've traveled, I would rate Brazil as one of the more kind towards women and how men react or treat women better. I'm not saying it's 100% like treating us like princesses, but like in terms of catcalling or saying names to women on the streets, I haven't experienced that at any level that I received in Buenos Aires or in Chile or in Bogotá, Colombia. I think that it's a lot more prevalent and it's a bigger issue there than it is here.
Any other? Mais alguém quer fazer uma pergunta? Não? Podemos encerrar então? Okay, so thank you guys, Sasha and Sofia. I'm very proud of having worked with them all this year. I'm so sad that they're going away again, but that's life. I hope we have enjoyed staying here all this time. I hope we have new experiences, going to someplace else. Espero que vocês tenham gostado da palestra das gurias, que elas estão à disposição se vocês quiserem ainda fazer alguma pergunta, conversar com elas agora, aqui pessoalmente após a palestra. Agradecer a presença de todos. Continuem participando das atividades do Idioma Sem Fronteiras. Sejam sempre bem-vindos às nossas palestras, cursos, clubes, dance clubs, conversation clubs, etc. Okay? Muito obrigada. Boa aula agora à noite para vocês.